Who doesn't want it smooth and easy?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody in the streaming world. We are the Podguyz podcast, bringing it to you live as we do every Monday night, 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. We're a tad bit early, which is okay. I am Tony Kaz.
Kevin Neary here.
Of course, we have the ever-loving Picasso, the doodler of the whiteboard,
There you go.
the creator of Color Prism.
Okay. All right. Tony, you've obviously been working on that one.
I have, yeah. The wiper of the whiteboard, Le Sparky.
And for our non-viewing audience out there, Sparky has the word high there on the Sparky's big board. So he's giving you an all nice, really high. Tony, we have a fourth square with us today.
We do. We have an amazing guest set up this week. Of course, he is a man that needs no introduction to some people. Maybe he does need an introduction to some people.
Hot start already.
I love it.
He needs no introduction unless he does.
Unless you have been living under a rock, he is the very talented, very funny Ryan Niemiller.
Hey, that's always one of those weird things. Like, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's always weird. So, like, I am what I consider JV famous.
No.
You know, like I'm not like, you know, like there's people that are famous. Like I'm a comedian for anyone who doesn't know. Like Kevin Hart is famous. You know, that is a famous comedian.
You got the tiered level, yeah. Household name, movies.
Yeah.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson can say, yeah, I've done something with him. Yeah.
I am junior varsity famous, where it's like if you're a comedy nerd or you really like America's Got Talent, you would know me. I get recognized sometimes because I have a very unique look with my disability. Like
it's your glasses.
It's my sweet cinnamon and sugar beard that everyone
the beautiful locks as well.
but it's always like because like, you know, America's Got Talent, people that are fans of that show are very passionate.
Oh my God,
that doesn't
crazy clientele.
Yeah, but it doesn't always translate into the real world past that. So I get in these really weird situations sometimes. Like even today, she's very sweet. My son's daycare / preschool teacher.
Okay.
She came in when I dropped my son off today, and she's always very sweet. I love her, but she was like, "Oh, the behavioral therapist here last time that you dropped your son off was like, oh my God, do you know who that was? Do you know who that is? I went and saw one of his shows and took a picture of him. He was great on America's Got Talent." And she was just like, "No, that's Owen's dad." Like, so it's like you get in those weird situations where some people you're like a huge big deal. And other people are like,
Ryan, does that get
I could
you
give
a pass?
less of a shit. No, I mean,
nothing.
No, because like
it doesn't give you like primetime parking or like
no, my disability
like
gets
shoveling you in. They're like, "Ooh, excuse me, Mr. Niemiller, you're Owen's dad. I had no idea."
No, my weird ass arms get me the good parking.
Yeah, did you ever get like a cop? Did you ever get like a cop that gave you a ticket anyways and said, "Yeah, I don't see a chair on you"?
Yeah, I've never got it with that. But I've gotten one ticket before. Like normally, it's one of the perks. I've only gotten one ticket in my life. This guy was just a dick. He gave it to me on my birthday. I was speeding, so it's one of those things like I couldn't really fight it. But like,
wait, is this pre-AGT or
this is pre-AGT? Yeah,
you could have gone like a nice little pause there. I was speeding on crystal methamphetamine at a child's birthday party. Daytime, but you know.
Yeah, you give me too much credit. I'm not that fun. I'm just an old dad now. That's all I do. I did get pulled over on my way out to California to film my audition for AGT. I'm glad the cop was just a nice guy. But this case, I was barely speeding. It was one of those situations like leaving a small town. I accelerated a little too soon out of the town kind of thing. And he pulled me over and he's like, "Oh, where are you headed?" And I'm like, "I'm going out to California." This was in Kansas, by the way. I was driving across the country. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to California." He's like, "Oh, what are you doing there?" "I'm going to be taping a television show, but I can't tell you what it is."
Oh, they already hit you with the NDA, huh?
Yeah, the NDA at that point.
Ah!
And that sounds like the most bullshit thing you could possibly say in your
Yeah.
life to like, I'm very important. I just can't tell you why. And he let me out with a warning. And then after my audition aired, he was one of the first people to send me a DM on Facebook. And he was like, I knew you were telling the truth. So he's actually come out to a couple of shows. He's a super nice guy.
Oh, that's cool.
But I was
See,
glad he
you
was
said
trustworthy.
you didn't get a pass. Of course you get a pass.
Ryan,
Yeah.
can you take us through, because people might have a lot of misconceptions about America's Got Talent and the whole walk and the whole like audition process. Could you take us through the play-by-play just so that way we can clear the air of any misconception that people do have about shows such a talent shows like that?
Yeah, so it's one of those things. I'll first and foremost, I love the show. They treated me so well. Like it changed my life. Like basically, so for anyone who doesn't know, I was on season 14. I got third place overall. So I had a really good run on the show. Uh, and you know, when you get in there, I know there's always these, you know, rumors and thoughts about like, oh, it's rigged, or you know, this and that and this and that. Um, if it's rigged, they do a good job of not telling anybody. I'll say that. The cash prize is real, so it can't be rigged in that way for starters. Like Cody Lee won my season. That dude's got $1 million now. That's a legit thing, you know.
Yeah.
So it's they can't fake that. But like at the end of the day, it's you know, when you're auditioning, they don't know who's going to do well. They don't know how you're actually going to perform out there. They don't know if the judges are going to like you. As far as I'm concerned, you know, I went up there blind. Nobody told me, okay, Howie's going to like you. Simon's going to say this about you. They're going to ask you this question. They started to say, hey, roll with it. Be smiles, have fun. And then once you go out there and like I did really well, like I had a really great audition. At that point, you can kind of tell that they were going to put something behind me. They never told me like, okay, now you're going to be third place, because it doesn't work that way, because the audience votes are real. If the audience doesn't like you, they don't like you. It doesn't matter. But they will, like, if you're someone whose story and whose presence they think is going to, you know, like this is going to make good TV, the way that they can quote unquote rig it is I might get a 10-minute segment on the show and someone else might get 30 seconds on the show. Like that's the kind of stuff they do. But they don't like fix votes, you know, because there was a couple of acts, you know, on some of these seasons, because I've watched, because I have buddies that do it now and all that, where you can tell that like they really want this person to go far, and America's like, fucking nope, we don't care for this, and it just doesn't work out, you know. So
now you're a very funny comedian as far as your setup, your follow through. Both me and Kevin are also stand-up comedians. How is your crowd work recently since you've been on the show? Are you doing more crowd work? Are you doing more joke setup? Are you doing like pull them up, shoot them down type stuff? Or
for me, I'm doing more storytelling because that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
You know, so like
You're very much a Jim Gaffigan, like hugely funny.
Yeah,
Very,
thank
very
you. I
funny
appreciate that. Thank you. That's very nice. I will not leave early now. I appreciate that. Like for me, like I want to tell stories. Like a lot of what my hour is right now, because I'm still in like the building process of my second special, is, you know, I'm a first-time dad. I'm a new dad. I'm a dad with a disability, with a son who's a monster. I love him very dearly, but he's slowly trying to kill me. I'm an old man dad. I'm not old in the grand scheme of life, but I'm 42. That's kind of old to be a first-time dad.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm tired. My joints hurt.
By the time your kid's going to college, you're ready to die. You know?
Yeah, basically. That's essentially what it is. And he will put me in the grave as fast as he can at this rate.
And they're going to be 30 years old.
Life insurance is ready.
Doubling up on your Colonial Penn life insurance.
Gerber in it.
Fucking yeah. No,
so,
Gerber babies if the kid doesn't make it, Tony.
Is that
that's
what
like the more that's like the more morbid, you know, like
Yeah.
situation. If you're already a bad parent to begin with to like your dogs, you know, and now you have a kid coming along, get Gerber baby life insurance. You're practically paying yourself to be yourself.
Oh, that's not good to know.
Yeah.
At this, he's almost 2 now, so I think we're gonna keep him. At this point, I live in
No return
California.
rate.
I live in California. We still have a few years to get rid of them. Apparently.
Oh my God, were you affected by the wildfire at all, or no?
Air quality, yes, but the fires were not close enough where that was a part. But like, they're no joke, man. It was, a lot of people like that was a big old fire, and
That was crazy. Yeah.
yeah, and everyone thinks that the area that got burnt is only rich people, and that's not how California works. It was a lot of celebrities' houses, but there's also a lot of houses there where 8 people live in that one house because that's the only way they could afford to live there.
I guess the homeless weren't affected at all, where they're like, all right.
Well, Gavin
still
Newsom, Gavin Newsom had already put them underground before
Yeah,
that.
there is a sewer
That's
population going
They
on.
were actually safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sewer people were all right, everybody.
Yeah, they were good. But like as far as what you were originally asking, Tony, I want to tell stories because that's what just interests me more. I'm not going to say I'm spinning some great tale, but my hour kind of has a through line, and I'm talking about this, and this. I can do crowd work. It's a skill. Like if you're a comic, it's like in the past it was a thing that you didn't do because that was going to be your thing. It was like a drunk people are going to say shit. You need to be able to deal with it so that you can then continue to do your jokes.
Ryan, I always looked at it earlier on in my career as a comedian. I always looked at crowd work as cheap. If people are specifically going at the audience and wanting to create a joke that way, I always looked at them like, oh, there's someone who didn't write a set down, didn't do any work at all. And obviously later on, it's probably because I never found it difficult myself to do crowd work. So when I'm seeing somebody do it and specifically do it, and it takes up more than half of their time, I'm like, okay, there's your cheat code. You didn't do anything, in my opinion. There was Todd Barry doing a whole Netflix special, I think, on just doing crowd work alone. And now that was interesting to watch. Did you see that at all or no?
It's been years, but I remember watching it. Like there's a few. I'm not even talking about like modern stuff because I'll get into my thoughts on that part because I think that's probably where Tony was going with this. Yeah. There are for me in the past, at least when I started, I've been going almost 20 years now. I started in 06. Crowd work was kind of it was something like that. It was either cheap or it was just like a necessary thing. You got good enough at it so that you can get back to your jokes as quick as
very
possible.
much a necessary evil.
Yeah, that was a skill you just have to pick up because drunk people are going to drunk. That's just part of it.
And then right up to COVID. It was like right at the COVID line. And then everything was at an apex.
Yeah, and then but there's a few comics who are really good, and like it's not even necessarily because like if you've watched them more than once, they're doing crowd work, but they have a structure built where it's kind of the same show each time, which is kind of impressive in itself. Like he was never particularly nice to me. I haven't seen him in years. He could totally be nice to me now. But Ian Bagg is brilliant. He's somebody that I will watch do crowd work all day.
Yeah.
Because he's it's very pointed. There's bits behind it. Because there's differences between doing crowd work and turning that into jokes and going up and being like, so how did you two guys meet? What do you do for a living?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. And then hoping, like, now I understand why people do it now. It doesn't burn your material because the whole business now is built on social media stuff. You have to keep getting content out. Like, that's the entire point.
100%.
You can't write good jokes fast enough to feed that monster with actual bits. Yep. So the way you do that, how did you guys propose? What do you, anyone have a birthday here? Like, who's married? You do that kind of stuff.
Like,
it doesn't burn anything.
Take for instance, there's not even a super funny comedian, Jimmy Carr. For example, he probably has a good half hour of material, but for his specials, he does like an hour's worth of crowd work. And that's all he's become. He's asked questions of the audience now, and he's like, do. And,
and it's one of those things that, like, maybe artistically that's not my style,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you get laughs, you get laughs. Because I think that's the part that people overthink this sometimes. Like I love crafting a good joke, and I love what goes into making that work. But I am not a comedian who's gonna tell you we're the last true truth tellers, and we have a an obligation to the people to be.
There you go.
It's like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like we're telling dick jokes. Like you're trying to get giggles. Like
You
that's
got
what
the
this is about.
yeah, you got the I would, oh god, I'd count that as the high class artsy comedian. What I do on stage.
It's important to society what I'm doing.
When I am losing myself on stage, all right? Whether there be people that, and you're like, shut the fuck up. And you just told 8 minutes worth of pussy jokes. Go fuck yourself. You're doing nothing,
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what like you can be as artsy or non-artsy as you want if you're getting laughs. Like that's what should be the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because I'll use this as an example. I don't know him personally. He could be the nicest human being in the world. I do not find Larry the Cable Guy funny in the least.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah.
But that dude,
we all unanimously
it
agree.
needs to be said.
But that dude is selling out theaters.
He does.
For there are thousands upon thousands of people who think he's the funniest man that ever walked the earth. So it's like, who am I to tell a guy who is selling way more tickets than me, is made way more money than me, that he's doing the art wrong? Like at the end of the day, you're trying to get those laughs. Some people are smart.
He's character acting, Ryan.
Yeah.
He's character acting the whole time. And if he's selling himself as that guy and as that character, then okay, I don't find it funny, but there are those blue collar comedy tour people. You have the Southern version, blue collar comedy. Then you have like the Kings of Comedy, and that'd be the more urban or black version or whatever the hell of these comedy clique groups that do go around. Now you have the Kill Tony clique going around, and this is a force to be reckoned with. Have you been on the Kill Tony tour yet?
Nope, and I have no desire to be.
No desire, none.
No desire. And like I say that from a small place of privilege. Because like I'm not, I'm not the most famous guy in the world, but I can be at least a little choosy with what I pick to do. Like I like, and I always say this too. I don't like the format of the show. I don't like kind of that the whole point is taking. Basically taking just people who are desperate for an opportunity, and they're not wrong for taking it. It's basically a live version of TikTok feed. You get your quick guy in there, you get everybody laughing. It's very watchable. It's live audience friendly. You get a lot of doses of it. Personally, myself, I cannot agree with you more. Not for myself, I think Tony Hinchcliffe is brilliant for making this idea marketable.
Oh yeah.
I don't think he's a brilliant comic, but that anything like that is just taste. That's a totally different argument. Me thinking someone's funny or not does not matter in the grand scope of things.
When it comes to storytelling, though, the person who does it the best, and this person, I'll reveal his name, can tell 3 jokes. It takes him 1 hour special. Only 3 jokes are told. The still living legend, Bill Cosby. 3 jokes.
Yeah. There's certain guys that are good with doing that. Cosby was good at it. It helped that most of his audience was drugged, so they didn't have to follow along with too much more complicated than that. I'll be honest, he probably does more punches. But I always thought Jim Gaffigan was really brilliant at that.
Gaffigan can talk about bacon for 45 minutes.
That's the thing. And I don't think people who don't do comedy understand how hard it is to do one topic without it getting boring. Because that's the thing. You can watch 45 minutes and be like...
He keeps it interesting by having a reaction voice for himself where, can you say that? Anyways, like the back and forth between the emotional gauge and the continuation of the story. So
yeah, but it is such a skill to be able to do, like you said, 45 minutes on bacon, and nobody is consciously going, he's still talking about bacon. Like you don't have, it's more of like a oh shit, he's been talking 45 minutes instead of, well, here comes another one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think clean comedy is so hard to do, because a lot of people who do clean comedy, and I love clean comedy. I don't think that it's necessarily a death nail just on its own,
Oh
but
yeah,
like
yeah.
a lot of clean comics, you're painfully aware that they're doing clean comedy. You know, like, and it could be funny. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but you're like, okay, this is clearly meant to be clean comedy. You get someone like Brian Regan, he's as clean as can be, and you don't, but you're not sitting there going, wow, he hasn't cursed once. You're just enjoying the show. And that's a tremendously difficult skill
Yeah,
too.
he's portraying his personality out there. Like Andrew Dice Clay, for example, not known for clean comedy. Before he came up with the character Dice Clay of himself, I mean, dude was trying every avenue possible until one finally hit. And it's just as many times as Sparky has on the big board right there. He's drawn a pitcher, doesn't always work out. We'll see what's going on with the big board there, Sparky. Flip it around. I see you holding it there for you. Here, we're just going to throw it out there.
Very patient. Very patient.
Meanwhile, on AGT, that is a penalty for a bad joke. Is this the NFL? Whoa, see what he did there.
Someone threw a flag, huh?
Yeah, as you can
They
tell,
did throw the flag.
Sparky's artwork is undeniably
He got my arms right. I'll tell you that.
He got them right. Yeah.
That's good. Nice work. Nailed it.
So I have to ask, Ryan, with the man, this is the year, and not to say this is the year, like last year and this year have seen a number of disabled comedians who have really, really taken off. And I mean really taken off. Like David Lucas, the guy who texts in the jokes on his phone. Aaron
Belial.
Aaron Belial, hugely fantastic. There's I'm trying to think of the guy.
Fiona Cawley is really big right now.
Martin Phillips too. Like some amazing comedians that are just popping out of nowhere. But
yeah, and good for them. It's like we don't all know each other. The only one I know.
No, I'm not saying the
that's
y'all
what you're
know
getting at. I think you're applying like, so what happens at the meetings? Like,
Better
what do you guys
question,
do?
Ryan. Do you all know each other?
I know Aaron.
I was just trying to pronounce the question that do you feel like there is a great opportunity for disabled comedians to really make a name for themselves?
Yes, but not because I think anything special is happening with like disability awareness or anything like that.
No, God, no way.
I honestly think probably just what it is just a little bit of what we were talking about before is things, things like TikTok and Instagram and all these type of things have made the world a lot smaller for stuff like that. Because, I'm fortunate with my disability. I've never had travel issues. I can drive, I can go to the airport, I can travel by myself. I don't have restrictions in that way. So my career was never stunted because I could go, I lived in Indiana for years. That's where I was based before I live in California now.
Gotcha.
But I was like, oh, I got offered a weekend in Oklahoma City. We'll get in the car and go. I have buddies who are super funny comics, like my buddy Joe Urell, for instance. He's a funnier comic here. He's known for roast battles for a while. He has cerebral palsy. He has to have someone with him all the time. He has to have a driver. He has a caretaker. He can't just go pick up a weekend feature gig in, Tampa, Florida anytime he wants.
Ryan, it's a really great point that you make there, that the world is more connected now than what it used to be. So when you used to be, when say somebody was on one side of the world, they don't know about so many disabilities, so they would just feel off-putting from the idea just because it has been normalized enough. It hasn't been seen as much, and people haven't been introduced to it as much. So really awesome, really great point to your idea right there.
And like, just for that as well. And it also just works with, I got America's Got Talent from living in a small apartment with my brother as my roommate in Indianapolis, doing one-nighters in random small towns in the Midwest. In the past, you would have had to have been in LA grinding. You have to be in New York grinding. You got to be around those big scenes so that hopefully a producer happens to be at the open mic at the Improv or whatever it is, and then you wow them and you get this opportunity. Now I had one comedy clip. It was from my first TV taping I ever did. It was a show called Laughs that was on Fox. It was Steve Hofstadter's syndicated show from like 2013, 2014. My clip from that went viral on Facebook, did like 3 million views. That one, like 3 million's not nothing, but it's not the most viral thing in the world. But that 3 million views, while I was just working a normal job in Indiana, got me America's Got Talent. That's what I auditioned with. They saw that video and went, "Oh, do that. That's what we want. Just go on TV and do that." And I went, "You got it." So like the world's a lot smaller.
I love your one
way.
joke that to quote you word for word. You're like, "Oh boy, I just flew in, and boy, are my arms tired."
No, it was "Boy, are my arms missing."
Oh, they're missing.
There you
That
go.
was the joke.
Way to stick the landing on the punchline. Way
to butcher. That's United for you.
That is Tony's disability right there. Him, the inability to repeat a joke.
His part. You had to be there, man.
His lot in life right there. Now, I actually had a blind friend. He coming off of Wayne County, Pennsylvania. He used to come down to the Wisecracker open mic nights in Scranton, Pennsylvania. But he got himself into some trouble because they thought his friends at the time thought it'd be even more funny since he's blind. Now he's got the dog and everything as well. Have you ever seen the movie Step Brothers?
Yes.
Where they put the little Nazi swastika on the guy. So he dressed up like that for a open mic Halloween party. And a couple Jewish people there did not care that he was blind and wanted him to not come by anymore and tried blacklisting him and all that nice stuff. And, they were like, they were accusing him, saying like, "Oh, I bet he's not really blind too." It's like, no, he's really blind. And also, he's not really a Nazi. This is just from the movie Step Brothers and stuff. But, do you feel that cancel culture is taking a turn? It's taking a back seat anymore, or what's going on with that?
At least as far as comics go, I think I have a pretty unpopular answer on this, in that I don't think cancel culture ever existed to begin with.
I agree.
It's not a real thing. It's become a marketing grift.
I think it was come up by dirty comics to begin with, so that way they can continue to look like they're doing something cutting edge.
You know where cancel culture exists? If you're an accountant. Like if you're an accountant and you make a racist joke on Twitter, you're fucking getting fired.
Or if you're an accountant and you start fucking your secretary and then you break up with her and go back to your wife, then you might be getting fired.
Yeah. Then you're actually getting a comic, all that happens, like what has happened here, and I think some of it is a grift. I think some people latched on to the fact that there's this movement where people think you can't joke about anything anymore, which is a fucking lie. You can joke about everything, because if you couldn't joke about anything anymore, why do I hear these jokes every goddamn second of every goddamn day from working comedians?
It's a victim standpoint. I think the one person I could say that really got caught up into the wrong side of the and he's better off for not taking it was the Shane Gillis.
No, if Shane Gillis got canceled, I would love to have a canceled person's calendar.
He would he was supposed to be on Saturday Night Live writing for them.
Get canceled. He lost his job.
It was an attempt. It was an attempt.
Yeah. No, but I don't even think it was an attempt to get because Saturday Night Live's a business. There was all this negative press about it. Here's the thing: a lot of comedians get wrong. We think that we're obligated to receive laughs no matter what we do. And I'll say this, to Shane Gillis's credit, I don't think I've ever seen a quote where he was bitching about being canceled. I don't think I heard him going there. I just said a joke and they took it too seriously and I lost. He never did that. It was people defending him. Here's the thing. I'm very strongly believe in free speech and comedy. I think that every single topic can be joked about, but the audience does not have to laugh at it. That's the problem that I think a lot of these comics have gotten themselves messed up with. They think criticism is cancellation. Dave Chappelle I don't know if he's still doing it now, but he kept releasing anti-trans specials for some goddamn reason.
Yeah.
I don't think he should never work again, but I should be allowed to say, hey, I think this is pretty shitty and not funny. And then he's like, then he goes in front of us, like stadiums in front of 20,000 people, and he's like, I'm being canceled. Fuck you. Like, no, you're not. Like, we're allowed to not like all your work. I think Dave Chappelle is one of the greatest comedians of all time. But I'm also allowed to go, maybe that wasn't your best work and that kind of sucked.
Yeah,
But,
I
like,
always say,
but
I always
you
say
can
that
work.
if you can nothing more challenging than writing around censorship from a creative standpoint. If you can write around it, then you're in better shape.
Yeah, because like you should be able to joke, but you have to be able to pull off what you're trying to do. If you're being offensive just to be offensive, you're a shitty comic. You're not doing anything other than like I could go on stage tomorrow and say the N-word. I didn't do anything. My free speech allows me to do that, but that's not a joke. That's not like I didn't do a bit that was great.
That sounds like a little bit of a bit right there. Go ahead, try.
I'll go right for it. But it's one of those things that
That'd
like
be on TMZ.
Yeah.
Ryan Niemiller says the N-word.
Yeah, the equation though has to be whatever bit you're trying to do on stage should be at least 51% funny. Your joke doesn't have to make everybody pleased, like it, because like I also believe too very strongly that I should be able to joke about whatever I want, but it's not my job to tell an audience member that they can't be offended by that. I think you as an audience member are allowed to be offended by whatever you want, because I don't know your history. I don't know your backstory. Some people are offended by, talking about having happy parents because their parents got divorced. It's not my job to tell you they're wrong, but like it's also not your job as an audience member to tell me I can't joke about that. We just decide I'm not for you and you find someone else. But it's not my job to say I'm allowed to say whatever I want. And if you're offended, you're a pussy and blah, blah, blah. No, because we have different things we're offended by. Like that's being a human.
It's reactionism.
I've seen this awesome video, Kevin, and then not to say an awesome video. It was a horrible video of a comic that was on stage. And he did this bit where he put on a Luigi hat from Mario Brothers. And he goes, "Oh, I'm Luigi, and I just killed the president of the insurance group."
Oh, and United Healthcare Group. Yeah.
Yeah, United Healthcare Group. And the fucking crowd went.
Yeah, and it's when because I still believe at the end of the day what I'm trying to do. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. You're still trying to get laughs.
Yeah,
and like you can make statements. I think that's your right. But like you can joke about that guy getting killed by old Luigi.
Yeah.
If you're getting laughs still, like that's the whole point. If you don't get a single laugh, that was a shitty joke. I don't
Ryan,
care.
is there a joke out there that you have to you have one of these jokes? I have one. Tony has one. Do you have one of these jokes that you find so funny but never seems to go over? And I'll give you an example. Jerry Seinfeld had one, and he turned it into a movie. His joke was about how bees are being used as free labor. And then he thought he had some punchlines along the way. No one found it funny. Ate up his whole 5 to 7 minutes every time. So later on, he turned it into the bee movie as we know it. Do you have a bee movie joke that you find way too hilarious and it's funny? Other comics thinks it's funny, but the audience just never gets to that height.
So I have one. I guess I have two that I'm working on right now that I think would technically fall in that. They're I'm seeing some improvement, but if I'm being honest with myself, it's not at the rate that I should still be trying it as hard as I am. So there's two. One is kind of a throwaway line that always makes me have to recover this joke, but I think it's really funny. I do a joke basically about how when we were trying to name my son, my wife let me participate because she's really good at making me feel like I'm a part of things because she's a teacher and she has the teacher voice. So like the teacher voice is like stuff like, "Oh, that's a really good idea, Ryan." Like that's and that part goes well. But when I first am mentioning that she's a teacher, I'm like, I'm a comedian. I did not marry a comedian. My wife's actually a teacher, and a couple people usually woo. I'm like, oh yeah, teachers. I didn't realize how underappreciated they were until I married one. Now half the money I make goes towards buying her class pencils. That gets a pretty decent laugh. But the line that I keep trying to add that never works because people literally, I think a lot of audiences just actually think this. I'm like, people think like my wife doesn't have paper in her class, but you think that she's transitioning children during the day, doing $40,000 surgeries when she doesn't even have paper, which I think is funny. And it's also like a real commentary of like, you fucking morons. Teachers don't even have supplies. How are they transitioning your children?
Like, we don't have any paper and pencils for you there, madame, but we do have the rape doll. Do your thing. You have a half an hour. Have fun.
Yeah, like that's the guy. I think it's funny, and it always just because I think what happens. I work a lot of South and a lot of Midwest. I think a lot of the audience is like, well, yeah, that is what they're doing, and you're just like, God damn it! Like, all right, another similar line I've been doing about that is I talk about like I'll do the about a 5 minute or so about how my son's mean, but I'm like he's mean, but I still love him. I think we're gonna keep him. And then it's like, I know he's like almost 2 years old, but I live in California. I think we can abort him for another 10, 15 years, according to some people.
You're still good. You're still on the range.
Yeah, and people, and again, I think people go, "What? That's what happens in California. You can, it's post-birth abortions. You can do that." And
I like how during the debates, when Trump was going up against Biden, and there was nobody was allowed to interrupt each other, right? So now you have a person who's the fish is always getting kind of bigger, right? In Donald Trump and Joe Biden, where the brain is always on fire. And you're like, whoa, Joe, what about that? Huh? And you're like, oh man, he's not all there. Right. But that's the product that they put out. Anyways, Donald Trump was just like, in California, they have a third trimester abortion. They're ripping the baby out. It's still there. It's still living. It's got a smile on his face. And then in the fourth trimester, and by the way, they're not allowed to interrupt him. And I'm like, the fourth trimester. And in the fifth trimester, the kid's living life. He's got a job. Cold cracking.
Got a social security number.
Mother comes along.
He plays for your favorite sports team. He's part of the Los Angeles.
Everybody loves him. They buy him a drink. They say, hey, kid, what's wrong?
He plays the recorder. It's my favorite instrument.
He then comes up to me and it says, Donald Trump, I'm going to be aborted tomorrow.
Because that's legal in all of the liberal states.
Is there anything you could do? And I said, maybe I could run for president. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, it's so. But so it's like sometimes jokes don't work because like, and that's on me because like I can sit here and we can just have a talk about and I don't want this to become a political talk because that's fucking boring and stupid.
Yeah.
But we can have a thought about like, man, isn't it funny that people actually believe that? And then the problem is I go tell that joke in front of the people who actually believe that. So it's like, that's my fault 100%. For not reading the room and knowing that like, oh, some people think this is real. So this joke is never going to work.
Is there anything about yourself when I'm sure you could make jokes about yourself? No problem. Right. But is there any time you say to yourself while doing that, which I'm sure you do have some of those jokes where you're like, punching bag is too big for it. I'm not going there on me because come on now.
Well, the thing is, I think, and again, I'm not going to try to claim that I'm the most artistic guy in the world, but most of the jokes that I do about my disability or like that are kind of about myself, they're not self-deprecating in nature. Mm-hmm. I'm more poking fun at either dumb things people say to me, dumb ways people treat me, or dumb assumptions that people think about, because like I'll give you an example of one that's like it's kind of self-deprecating, but it's not the point of the joke. Where I'm making a joke about for anyone that's wondering, my son, he does not look like me. Mm-hmm. He's black. I don't know what my wife is up to.
So I know what you're saying. You touch on it. You just don't lean. You don't live there.
Yeah.
You don't live.
It's not a giant arrow pointing.
Yeah, but even the points I'm making, like the joke that I'm trying to make, because I follow up talking about like, my son doesn't have my disability, and he's real cocky about it. You know, so it's like, which sounds ridiculous. He's, a year and a half old. He can't be cocky, but he just does things, like every time he hands me something, he only puts it in this hand. There's no grab. So it's like, I'm kind of making fun of myself, quote unquote, of my disability, but like, I'm being purposely hyperbolic about like, my son doesn't care that I have a disability. That's not how children work in this thing. And I'm putting this trait on him that, oh, my son is so cocky that he has hands and I don't. Look, he tries on gloves. It's like, so I'm poking fun, but it's like, it's silly and stupid and playing off the fact that there's a lot of people that are like, I bet his son's crippled too. I bet that's
not
like a
to
real
say that
thing.
this would be a perfect
there
joke
has
for
to
you.
be, you're right, there has to be a mindset on that.
Not to say that
Yeah.
this would be a perfect joke for you, but you could be like, oh, this is how I wipe my butt, and I use this one as the rolling hand.
Yeah. What I usually what I have been saying with that is like, this one doesn't grab stuff. He's for pointing and poking.
Just say something so, Ryan, just say something so obscure. Be like, I know time travel is real. Look at me. Look at me.
Look at it. Yeah. So it's like, because like I purposely didn't want like when I started what I was doing. There's a real thing. It's a real phenomenon, and I wish I always forget her name, but she was like more of an advocate and an activist for disability rights who coined the term inspiration porn, which is don't look it up because you'll probably find things that are not exactly what you're looking for. But it's the term that she coined where people with disabilities are generally by society. I'm not talking individually because someone will always be like, well, I don't look at you that way. I'm talking about a generalization of how society treats people with disabilities as if they're inspirational by nature.
If there's a difference, normally there will be a difference in treatment. Absolutely.
Yeah. That me as having a disability, my main role in society is to encourage able-bodied people to get their shit together. That's what inspiration porn is.
It's like, people
Young,
when they're
Robin,
yes,
like people when they're talking to somebody that has cancer, they'll put on their sorry you're sick voice, like, hey, how's everything going? Because they don't want to seem like they're not caring or whatever. But and it's probably worse because if you had something wrong with it, you don't want to be talked to like that for the whole entire time. You want to be talked to, like a normal person, one-on-one, just hanging out.
Exactly. And it's human instinct to do it. And it makes it tricky to just exist in the world sometimes because
you don't want to lash out on them and say like, hey, you can talk to me normal, because then they can say like, oh, he's angry because of I get it,
because it's almost always well-meaning when people do that. Like they don't realize how offensive and condescending they're being, because like it's coming from like a good place, but like it's also hard to explain. Like I'll get this a lot with parents of children who will say things to me or ask questions or stare or point, and the parents will be like, well, this is going to be a good learning opportunity for my son to learn about people with differences.
Oh, great. So you get to be a fucking prop in their life.
Yeah.
Way to go, Martyr.
And that's why it's exhausting, because like on a one-on-one basis in that moment, I get why they think that, because this is the first time it's come up for them. Whereas for me, this is the 10,000th time that I've had to do this, when all I'm trying to do is sit down and eat my fucking cheeseburger. And some days, like the way I always handle those situations is I read off the parent. A kid's going to say what they're going to say, and it might be shitty, it might be rude, it might be whatever. I look to the parent. If a kid says something like, hey, what happened to your arms? I look at the parent. If the parent's apologetic, I'll be like, okay, look, I'm not a fucking animal. I'm not going to be an asshole. Like, the parent apologized. We can do a little thing. If the parent looks at me expectantly like I'm a PowerPoint presentation, I'm the lesson this kid's going to learn isn't about differences. It's going to be not everybody thinks your fucking shit is cute, and not everybody's going to be nice to you.
Like you're not some kind of NPC in their fucking
zoo.
Video game, you know? Like you're not a fucking walking NPC in their goddamn video game or whatever. Though some kids are just curious, and you can tell the difference between jerkiness and curiousness because you know there are some kids out there that they're jerks and their parents aren't helping.
Yeah, because the parents are always the problem. Like kids can be assholes, but they can also become not assholes later. If an adult's an asshole, they're probably that's what they are. You know that they're a finished product.
Assholes love to fuck. You know that, man. Assholes
Ryan,
love to fucking reproduce.
Can I address the elephant in the room?
Sure.
Where are you, elephant?
The controllers behind you. I see that you're an avid collector of quite the prolific different types of controllers.
Correct.
Are you an avid video gamer?
I am a big time video gamer. So
I've heard that once or twice.
I'm paring down the collection a little bit now just based on space issues. But as of current, I think physically I own 3,500 plus video games.
Jesus.
Digitally. With all kind of like the hyperspin emulator machines and all that. I had about another 50,000 that I have access to. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world as far as like nerd stuff. It's I guess like the three things that would fight would be pro sports, pro wrestling, and video games. Those are all the things that kind of mash up in my nerddom that I really love.
You don't throw comedy right up at the pinnacle there?
No, you can't like what you do. You know, come on,
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
you can't like what you do.
Listen, I can't fucking sit through so many. I'm not gonna if I'm watching somebody's stand up. If I'm watching somebody do stand up, it's kind of like if anybody else would go to work and watch some fucking Burger King, show going on. Like it just. It's not irritating.
Do you know why I love stand-up comedy? Is because when I'm not doing stand-up comedy, I am not watching stand-up comedy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I get to a certain point. I'm going to ask you something. How long have you been doing it, Tony?
Stand-up or podcasting?
Stand-up.
Less than 5 years. I'm very, very new.
See, Ryan, I've been at this 16 years right now, so I totally understand where you're getting. Where you sit there. You've seen 10 comics in a row, 3 times a day, 3 times in fucking 4 days, and it gets draining to the point where I could tell you how many times I've heard a Tide Pod fucking joke during that whole kids are killing themselves from Tide Pod things, which I think, by the way, I wrote the only good one. Where a person.
Of course you did. Sure.
I'll let you know, right?
Not to pat yourself on the back, Kevin.
Not to pat myself on the back, but the ambulance gets there. The woman's on the ground crying, and they get there. They say, "Oh my God, a child's." Oh wait, smells pretty good in here. All right, this isn't so bad anymore. And that's it. They are the best smelling suicides. As I'm paraphrasing. The accidental suicides. It wasn't like Tide's like, hey, maybe you should eat this. It's a challenge. It's not like they had a commercial representation of that throughout the whole entire time. Or would
have been a ballsy move had they done it though.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I've overheard in restaurants where a dude was talking to a waiter. He says that he didn't want any tomatoes on his BLT. He stressed it. He's like, if I find a tomato on there, man, I'm leaving. We ain't paying for none of this, right? And then the waiter leaves, and he says to his friend, he's like, anyways, so I was eating this bitch's ass out. And I'm thinking to myself, so an ass. That's good. Tomatoes. No good.
In fairness, I would eat the ass over the tomato.
I am not eating ass.
I'm not saying I'm eating ass.
You heard it.
This is what happened.
You heard it here
I'm
first
just
on the
saying,
podcast.
if you give me the choice, I'm not saying I'm eating ass either. But gun to my head, I will eat the ass.
Gun to my head, give me the tomato. Do you hate tomatoes that much? What the hell is wrong with the tomato?
Well, I'm one of those freaks who like everything that's made of tomato, I love. Except for a tomato, it's a texture thing because an actual tomato is just a bag of dirty water. Like that's what a tomato is when you bite into it. It's disgusting.
Okay, but fleshy flaps that poop. That's cool.
Man.
I mean, oh my God.
I didn't say it was cool. I'm just saying preferably.
Like,
It's a gun to the head.
Yeah, this is a gun to
One choice or the other. It's a Sophie's choice.
So the point that I'm making, that I was trying to make before I had to admit I'd eat ass over tomatoes, was, Tony, this is not meant to be dismissive of you, but you're still early enough in the game where you have this excitement for comedy.
True.
And again, I say this as someone who loves comedy, but once you get to, like, you work really hard to get to a point where this becomes my career. I don't,
100%.
I don't work a day job now, like this is what I do. I tell jokes for a living. I make pretty good money, but now the career is something that, like, this is how I have to help us pay our bills, and this is how I have to take care of my son. There's
I totally get it.
There's so much more behind this now, where it's like, I love my job, but an accountant can love their job. It doesn't mean that they want to read accounting books when they're off work. That's kind of where I'm at now. Now this has become like,
it's like a guy in prison watching the show Locked Up. What are you doing?
Exactly. Not there's a new pressure. Like the further you get along, like, you get these perks. Like, people recognize me. I get to headline these places. I'm the face that they're using to sell the tickets. All that's awesome. But now there's the pressure of, like, oh, if I don't sell tickets, it was my fault. It wasn't anyone else's. If I don't sell tickets, then bills are going to be weird. My son's not going to get to go to a good college or whatever thing.
That as seen on America's Got Talent, when I wanted to ask you a question about that, when it comes to headshots for yourself, did you have to use your photographer or their photographer?
For the as seen on.
No. For the just specifically America's Got Talent, when you had to do headshots for them, did you have to pay for their photographer or no?
Oh, you don't have to pay. They just do it.
They were just doing it? Okay.
So the thing with AGT, anything that they need or want, they're going to take care of like, nothing comes out of your pocket. So it's like, you don't get paid. That's one of the things that people ask, like, oh, do you get paid to be there? No. Not directly. So it's like you don't get, but they fly you out. They're giving you hotel. You get food stipends. They have makeup people there. They have wardrobe people there.
No, when they are flying you out, are they flying out coach or first class?
I mean, they're just flying you out.
A good friend of mine. I don't think I jinxed the idea, but Joe Matarese, he was a finalist on there. Very funny. Whenever we found out about it, I had to say, like, yeah, watch you get beat by some dogs doing fucking tricks. And he got beat by some dogs.
That's what he got beat by.
Beat by some, because those dogs were amazing. But
I'll be shocked. I don't want to say never, because that's not how it works. And comedians have won in other versions of this show. But I will be shocked if a comedian ever wins America's Got Talent, because here's how I always explain it. If you're good at comedy, it doesn't look like you're doing anything.
Right,
I describe it where, like, say you're watching America's Got Talent and a juggler comes on and you hate juggling. You can still watch the juggler and be like, okay, I can tell they trained really hard to do this. They learned, this skill. They probably took a long time to figure out. I just personally hate it. If you hate comedy, I just look like I'm a dude fucking talking up there.
Yeah,
I'm not on fire. I'm not doing any flips. There's nothing happening. So people are like, this isn't even a talent. Mm-hmm. Not only is he not funny, but he ain't doing shit. So it's like, there's a certain demographic of people who watch that show who don't even think it's a real thing. Yeah. Comedy.
It's an skill behind Ryan. It's an expected thing. It's like watching a strong guy lift something, and you're like, well, of course he would, because that's what he does.
Yeah. Look at his muscles.
Yeah, of course he can lift it. You hit on a very, very big topic as far as, like, the A to Z from AGT, and the big thing is just now I know they have you wait out in the crowd, correct? And then you're watching people kind of, I guess, audition.
No, they don't make you sit out there and actually watch the other acts. They don't.
I thought they did.
No,
like, they would have you come out and then they'd have
so
around and rotate and blah blah blah.
How it would work, and it depends on round to round, because they have different expectations of what you're doing. But, like, for instance, for the auditions, you're back in this kind of holding area for hours, and sometimes you're just
So
sitting
they're
around
green room.
basically. So sometimes you're sitting around doing nothing. Sometimes they're filming B-roll, so they want you kind of just to be in the background for something. They'll pull you over and they'll do the interviews with you. Because like at that point, they don't know who's going to do well, who's going to keep going on the show. Because a lot more people audition in front of the judges than actually ever get on TV. So, but they don't know who's going to make that cut at that point. So they're filming all this stuff with everybody all day. So it's kind of hurry up and wait. That's why you get a lot of the stereotype of America's Got Backstories is from like I'll admit there's a lot of that sob story to it, but it's not because that's the only thing they want. The reason that happens so often, when you're there for the audition, the most you're guaranteed to be there is 1 day. If you get buzzed out or whatever, you only get that 1 day, but they don't know that ahead of time. So they got to film all this shit. Because if you do great, if you crush it, you get the golden buzzer, you get whatever, and they didn't film anything with you, they're fucked.
They're really fucked. Yeah.
So but they only have this day to get all this information. Now, for me, like, I don't know if you guys actually watched the season or whatever. A lot of mine, like I touched on my disability, but my whole thing was, like, hey, my disability, like, it kind of sucks, but this is like, look what I get to do. I have this unique thing. And like, I'm the funniest guy in the room. So why do I have this thing that makes me special. I didn't turn it into like this sad thing. One of the first things they asked me is like, were you bullied? And I was like, well, no, because I was funnier than everybody. I was better at making the jokes. So everyone liked me. And they were like, oh, this is different. But I'm a comedian who talks for a living. I can craft my own story. A lot of these people, it might be a 10-year-old kid who's scared out of their mind. It might be a singer who's amazing at singing, but they don't have to talk when they're singing. They just sing their song and then bow and go home. So for them, the easiest thing to do is just like, oh, has anyone in your family been sick? Oh, cool. Your mom died of cancer. We'll go with that. It's not necessarily that they're trying to exploit it. It's just that's a very easy, tangible story to get a hold of.
It's tipping into the line of exploitation. Jerry Springer, that's exploitation right there. Okay, that's pushing a whole limit where they're like, okay, cool. Maybe you're so angry you want to punch her in the face. It's like, am I? Of course you do. If not, you're not going on the fucking show. So I'm. It's just a Hollywood. It's just a Hollywood thing. They need more than just, hey, you're super talented. What else you got? Because somebody else is always going to have something else along.
Because that's what I'll tell any comedian who wants advice, if like that's the route they want to go to try to get on a show like that. People sometimes it's the people who want to make everything so artsy about it. Is America's Got Talent is not a stand-up comedy show.
No.
It is a reality show based on personalities. If they just wanted a comic who could be funny for 2 minutes, there are tens of thousands that could accomplish that. But are they unique? Is there anything special? So like you're selling yourself because like,
and you're very much a likable character as well.
And that's the thing. Like I try to be myself in that regard, but I also knew going in, because like I have a lot of friends who had done well on that show before that I was able to kind of ask for advice, and they're like, make yourself a part of everything.
Very smart.
Make yourself a part of everything. Make yourself easy to work with, because like it's not just about your talent. Your talent's important, especially the further you get along on the show.
Yeah.
By the time I was in the finals, no one gave a fuck about my trailer park upbringing or my disability. They're just like, if this guy doesn't make me laugh, I'm not voting for him. And after the first couple rounds, no one gives a shit at that point. You got to be good. Like, your talent's important.
You're literally telling people to judge not just talent, but the backstory is kind of important. But at the end of the day, it boils down to, okay, do I want someone to win who's a great singer or comedian or can fucking be a cool magician? Like, it's telling America to do it, which, holy shit, if anybody does watch this show, it doesn't come off as, it doesn't feel like you're getting the best of the best, but you technically are. We have a little bit of an example. I always use this example where I say, okay, if everyone were to stand up in the whole entire world, Ryan, and they said, hey, who wants to be rich and famous? The whole world stands up, right? And they say, okay, great. How many would do it for 100 grand? And you still got people standing. Once that number gets down to 0, you still got people standing. Then the number starts going into the negative where, hey, will you pay for stage time? Hey, will you sacrifice working 2 jobs and going out to open mics and stuff? Hey, would you sacrifice just sleeping on couches, ducking out on rent, going from here, going, there's so many sacrifices along the way that by the time you do hit an area where you think you're going to get a break, you're sitting in a room with 17, 18 other people that have, a look, just a physical look kind of close to yours, because the leverage is always on the side of the people that have the money and make the decisions in the big rooms like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, when I did AGT, like it was important to me. They don't need you. That's something I want to make very clear.
Yeah.
Like they were great to me. Like I'm still friends with a lot of the producers and people from that show. They treated me like family. They treated me well. But at the end of the day, you have to realize when you get on something like that, and it's not just AGT, it could be any Hollywood or whatever thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need you. They need performers, but they don't need you. Like, if I go in there and I'm difficult and I don't want to play ball a little bit with what they're trying to do, they're gonna find someone that will, and that benefits me not at all. So you have to play the game, because I did all that sacrificing you're talking about. Mm-hmm. A show like AGT, people will think that you came out of nowhere. I did comedy for 13 years before I got that opportunity.
But they think you just started 2 years ago, max. Now, Jay Leno put up a good, they used to call him the overnight success. And he called himself the 28-year overnight success as far as just to push that narrative aside. But they still want people to think that. And it's a really good story when they say, like, right, new to comedy, right?
Yeah, came out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Here he is.
And to AGT's fairness, they don't push that, because that was the original appeal of the show. It was supposed to be, any of you at home could just show up and you'll become the next big star. Yep. They kind of backed off of that, where it's like, where part of your story is the grind.
I think that's the reason they start off with that narrative, so that way they can get a group full of people. But when they're just, how long has the show been on now? 12 years? Well, how long have talent shows been like, what you had? Ed McMahon back in the day, but this isn't the first time we've seen a show like this.
For AGT alone, their season 20 is this year. Like the season 20th season.
So 20 years. So people are much more familiar with the brand than year one, America's Got Talent, where you're like, oh, another talent show, and then you find some gems, diamonds in the rough that aren't really too rough to find, because you can watch people separate themselves real quick in a room of people that have been doing it for a long time and people that are just like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, I don't think I could do this. It's like, then go and leave and just get yourself some more experience. Because when you're on stage and you're like, bam, just another show, treat it like an open mic, do your thing, well prepared, ready to roll. If it goes good, it goes good. If it doesn't, retweak it, retool it, come back again as like a force that just will not stop. And it's perseverance throughout the time. I mean, dude, we're close to the same age.
Ryan, you're a goddamn tornado.
You are a tornado.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, that like I always try to tell people, like, for how AGT works specifically, like that's the world that I know the most, but I think this applies to a lot of stuff, is like, you have to play the game. There's more to it than just, because, like, one of the worst things you can do on AGT specifically is act like it doesn't matter to you. Because I think as comedians, a big thing that we try to, like, get into our brain, like, we never want to look like we're panicked or not in control. You might actually be like, okay, man, these hecklers are out of their fucking mind. I have no but, like, you never want to show that weakness. So a lot of comics try to get on AGT and they get in there and they act like, it's just another gig, I'm just doing. But, like, no, you got to play the gig. Like, I wasn't nervous about the performance. I was nervous about everything else that came with it. But, like, one of the things that they told me, like, almost like immediately, is like, one of the worst things you can do is make Simon think that this isn't important to you. Like he wants to know that you understand that this is a huge opportunity you're getting. And comics will sometimes go in there and be like, no big deal. I'm just telling my jokes. I've done this a billion times. Who cares? This is another gig. So it's like, it did mean a lot to me, that opportunity. And if you watch me on stage, like if you watch me do a normal set at a comedy club, I'm not going to be all emotional and in tears that I got to perform in front of these people.
I don't
I'm
know.
going to do
There
my
is this
job.
one
And,
They
video on
want
YouTube.
no, I Ryan,
but on
I could
AGT, I'm like emotional, like I'm playing it up. Like it was real, but
Yeah.
you also like, I might
You're
not
getting
show
national
that real
TV.
emotion.
You're getting national TV exposure. My comment was more towards the audition part of the scenario.
Yeah.
The beginning stages when you are getting national TV spot recognition. Yeah, man, that's something to feel good about and emotional about. But before you get, ahead of the idea mentally, you got to be setting yourself up for, okay, this is what we do. This is whatever. It's just another day in the park. Compare and separating
lining up
yourself.
the ducks and then shooting
You're
them down.
separating. You would separate yourself from the amateurs in the room where, don't get me wrong. You see some kids and they're up there singing and you're like, wow, kids just do that. Nope. They've been pageanted most of the time. These kids have been already doing it, but they've also been taught how to lie because kids are great at fucking lying.
So I have to throw in an
coaching them,
ultimate
saying, "This is what you tell them. You tell them that this is your first time ever you fucking sang or read or anything, and they'll say it like it's the truth." Go ahead, Tony. I'm sorry.
I have to ask one legitimate question. With you in the green room and them, having you sit and wait and wait and wait, was there ever a group or a personality where you were like so surprised that they didn't do better than they did?
Are you acting for like a specific act or?
Yeah, I mean, if there's something like you were rooting for because you thought, man, this band was gonna do well. This juggler or acrobat or magician or like somebody,
I guess there was a couple. So there was a magician who got eliminated in the semifinals of mine, Eric Chin, who had just won.
Fucking crazy.
He had won like the close-up Magic World Championships like the year before. He's legit, but like here's why I can tell you that show is legitimate. Is that
and that's why I bring it up specifically just for him.
Because in the Magic world, Eric and Eric's a super nice guy. We got along well. I wouldn't say we're like, I haven't talked to him in years, but like if we saw each other, we'd be happy to see each other. Good dude, very soft-spoken, but like magicians who are like really big magicians consider him one of the best in the world. Like people who know the craft are like, his technique is so just goddamn good. But for whatever reason during his semifinals performances, Simon was bored. And that's that. So it's like you're kind of excuse me. You're kind of at their mercy too, the judges with a show like that. Because like that's why a lot of what I was playing, I wanted to have good sets, but like it's all that like extra in between stuff. Because like Eric would be a good example. He's such a quiet, shy, soft-spoken just dude who's really, really good at his talent. Mm-hmm. But like he wasn't going to talk his way into a positive response if a judge didn't like it. I could talk my way into, because like my performance wasn't just the 2 minutes I was telling jokes. It was my entrance. It was my responding to judge comments. It was my dicking around with Terry Crews and having fun and doing, even when Terry was like, he would always do you could vote 10 times. I was doing like mime bits where I'm like doing that, where it's like everything is a bit like that's all part of the performance. It's not just doing your thing.
Both the Bloods and the Crips were like, how does he know our gang signs?
He's the one bringing us together.
His milkshake brings everybody to the yard.
So, that would be the one deciding factor there. It's just
So, but like so there would be some surprises of like. And again, it just shows why something like that, or like even judging talent, like I love America's Got Talent, but at the end of the day, how do you rank a comedian versus a singer versus a magician?
Oh my God, you're 100% right. It's
whatever.
Very tough. Me and Tony, and we had to be judges on the Big Break competition. It's a music competition. We we really had to, I was like, dude, let's take this seriously as everything, just dude, there were some people showing up there without any instruments and just like really going at it, like with screamo music. And I'm like, okay, holy shit. And then there's a rapper, and you're like, uh-huh. No actual true genre of music to pick a lane in. So eventually,
yeah, because you're at the mercy of whoever is judging's knowledge base. And that's not meant to be diminishing, but I'll give you an example. Like last night, I was busting my brother's balls because he was texting our group chat, and he hated the Kendrick Lamar performance.
We had talked about this earlier as
well. And look, like I liked the show enough. Like I'm not going to claim to be a huge Kendrick fan, but I also understand because like I think where people often get confused with things like judging something is like I cannot necessarily personally be the biggest fan and know that he's very talented at what he does. Yeah. I just don't either like that world or know that world.
So what me and Tony did on that same note is there was like 4 screamo bands. So I'm like, let's put them in a category sort of thing. And then just like pick 1 or 2 of them, see if what's going on. There was like 3 rappers. All right, let's put them in a category, see if we can get one or see if we can find some continuity, some form of fairness between it, because it's difficult. There was one band, kind of, I'm not going to name any names, kind of pressed to be the top dogs out there, and they didn't have a good performance that night in our opinion, and it was just a true unbiased opinion. We've never heard of them. We have no relationship prior to with them. Really nice people, but one band just hit the right area, and it's a live judging competition. But
I'm sure it's the same, and not to say it's the same in the comedy world. You are as good as your last performance as well. And you take that comedy standpoint, and one joke could work against you or for you for a group of people, and then you have to mentally switch and adjust. Of course,
comedy competitions are the worst, man. Like it.
It doesn't make any sense because like this is all art, but like it's so subjective. Mm-hmm. Let me echo I don't think Larry the Cable Guy's funny. Some people think he's the funniest guy in the entire world. Both of us are right. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. We're both, because like when it comes to personal preference,
and I think you hit it right on the head right there too.
Yeah, you're both correct. So it's like trying to judge it. That's why it's like for me with AGT,
there's a lane.
Yeah. I wanted to win. I don't want to claim that like I was too cool for it. Like being the first comic that ever won and like having $1 million, mm-hmm. Even if it's just paid out 25 grand every year for like some people shit on that, like, oh, they don't even give it to you all at once. Imagine waking up on January 1st every year and you just already have 25 grand just cause. That's not a bad way to live.
I 100% agree with you, man. I won what he's when the Powerball got up to $1 billion. I said, Mike, are you gonna bet the Powerball? He says, I'm gonna wait for it to go a little higher. I said, what the fuck is your problem? No one is knocking at your door with a briefcase full of money, and you are denying them every day and saying, no, fuck you. I'm going to go work at Walmart today.
I want to hear what Sparky has to say against this, because he's been very quiet the whole show.
Sparky, yeah.
Okay, this is actually going to be a
all good right. That's all the time we have.
Oh my God! Look at that, fresh out of time. My God, maybe next time.
I'm actually going to ask a nice, fun, interesting question. You're talking about magic acts and everything. Now, were you able to run into any of the contestants that actually had like one of the more spooky magical acts, like America's Got Talent had one known as the witch, where the person dressed up as the witch and used rats and snakes and stuff for props. And then the other one was what was her name? Rihanna.
Yeah, Rihanna.
Rihanna.
She's fantastic.
Where she actually scared Howie half to death when she drove the knife into the table in front of him when he sat down. Now, were you able to did you have like any kind of acts the season that you were with then?
My particular season didn't have the spooky stuff like that. When I did Champions, there was he was from Germany, I believe. He was called Mika Dark, who did stuff like that. which was kind of cool. It was kind of creepy. I didn't have like I don't remember any of the acts for my season, at least the shows that I like the performances I was on that had any of those where I was like, oh, that was fucking uncomfortable and weird. I will say some of the just the magic in general though, like I fell in love with magic because of that show, because like I think magic gets a bad rap with a lot of people. It's very similar to improv, where if you watch bad improv, it's one of the worst things in the world you could ever see.
The worst.
But if you see it top level, it's brilliant. And I think that's what magic is. Like if you see a birthday party, like a kid's birthday party guy, you know, wearing a big tuxedo and a top hat going, ooh, like, yeah, that's shitty magic. But when you see these top level, I became buddies with Piff the Magic Dragon.
Okay. Oh, that guy's great.
Phenomenal. He's such a nice dude, and the act's great. And like I kind of think like I started to like learn, and you know, luckily being friends with them and the way the show is done, you can kind of like be a part of how the tricks are done. Mm-hmm. But like just watching a magic trick that you can't figure out, I think that shit's spooky in and of itself.
Yeah. Like there are some tricks where you have to just, you know, get real cynical on, where they're just you'll see commercials for it during the 90s. We grew up around the same era where they're like, oh, we're going to make the Statue of Liberty disappear. And you're like, no, you're not. Yeah,
damn you, David Copperfield.
You're not doing shit like that. You know, even if you are, you're not.
That'd be one of the biggest news stories of all time.
I would only buy it if the president and, you know, like the Secretary of Defense were all there and they were like, how the fuck did you do that?
Ramble the Jets.
Arrest him now. Yeah. You know, then I'd say, oh shit, you know, something's going on there. They had to arrest him and find out his secret formula to get back the Statue of Liberty, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, I love Matt. I want to go see a spooky act, but just kind of like watching. Probably the closest I got to see is some like the mind reading stuff.
That stuff's crazy.
So one of my good friends, I did the Vegas show with him a couple weeks when I was out there when that was still running. Peter Antonio, he does like mentalist stuff and like mind reading. Mm-hmm. I think that stuff's even crazier because it's the same kind of thing. It's a trick. Obviously, you know, they're not actually reading minds, but like that because like that kind of trick, if you show me my card, that could be technically cool, but I don't think you did anything like from beyond the grave.
If you rip something out of somebody's mind, dude, I mean, we've had mentalists on here before, and you know, there are certain groups that I would call out as fake people, as, you know, fakes, you know, like psychics that are like all John Edwards type people doing cold reads. I'm looking for somebody with a letter B over here, and you're like, oh my God, this is so fake. Why is he taking advantage of all these people? You know, sort of thing. But then there are those where we just can't explain it sometimes. We had a couple of mentalists on here. Who was that? The military medium the one time, Tony?
I actually like the mentalist that we had on here the one time. He actually did some close-up magic, and then he did stuff like on the camera, which was really, really cool.
It was kind of tricky. He would write down a word before we even started anything up, and then ask us to write down what we wanted to have as our word, and without ever knowing, like, that was, you know, and not switching it up and all, that was the actual word. It was just like inexplainable, you know. It's just weird.
Yeah, that's the stuff I think is creepy, because I know there's an explanation. I know there's a trick. There's a reason that they can repeat it and do it over and over again, and they didn't just get lucky once and whatever. But it's like there's something fun, you know. It's like it's kind of like I miss that part of my pro wrestling fandom, where it's like you don't always need to know how the sausage is made. Sometimes it's like you can know that it's not on the level, and just still enjoy it regardless.
And that's kind of that's where I think that's where wrestling kind of went wrong. We all knew that the Undertaker wasn't like this, you know, man from the dead or whatever the hell, right? We knew he wasn't a real life Undertaker, but now they're using the verbiage anymore in this new. They're using they're using stage verbiage where it's just like, dude, you gotta let them have, you know, like a rivalry going on, you know.
I think the genie's just already out of the bottle, though. It's like I think you could be reminiscent about you can have nostalgia for the good old days of that feeling. But it's like the world's open. It's like people want to like think now that like, oh, people weren't this like, there wasn't this much tension and people weren't assholes like this. It's like, no, we just have social media now where everyone's opinions are out there.
People were assholes in the bigger way back in the day. They had
everybody's always had those thoughts. It's
people
just
would buy a fucking
public.
stamp. People would buy a stamp and mail a letter to tell you if they didn't like a TV show or not for a commercial that they were forced to also watch on top of the whole thing. Married with Children had one complainer, and executives were like, we
need to cancel.
We had a complaint. And they're like, how many complaints? Yes, Sparky.
Fast question.
Yeah.
What does The Undertaker and the Kansas City Chiefs both have in common?
They got defeated in the same stadium. Sparky's take on the Undertaker streak that got stopped at that New Orleans stadium and the Chiefs streak that also got stopped at that New Orleans stadium holds true to this day. Of course, there are other theories that whenever Tom Brady's in the house, the Eagles seem to win and the Chiefs seem to lose. There's that growing theory.
Well,
either way,
Ryan,
I was happy with both.
We're going to wrap up this show because you've been an amazing guest. There's so many questions I have to ask you, but not enough time.
Well, I'll come back sometime. God damn it.
We'll do it.
I think that's what you were getting at. You were trying to see, that was some mentalist bullshit there. You did a leading thing.
Bullshit.
There's so many questions I wish I could still ask. Fine,
I want to ask about your fantastic wrestling career.
Fine, I'll come back and do your stupid fucking show, Tony.
Yeah,
all right, fine, you got me.
You
got me.
This is how Tony got married. That's how he.
You know what? I had my wife was my one that got away. There's something to be said about wearing them down. And Tony, you've worn me down. That's all I'm saying.
It is. Ryan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, of course. If people are going to look for you, do you have any shows coming up soon?
This is a stupid question I should have asked. Like, this airs live, right? So like this is in real time.
Right now, yeah.
Well, because sometimes I'll record these and they'll be like, okay, I think your episode's gonna go up in August. And I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna promote then? Like,
yeah,
what do you
stupid.
This Sunday I'm doing a show in Marion, Illinois. Then I got some corporate stuff coming up.
Does it have a particular name of the place that you're going to?
Fuck, you would ask me that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I mean, we want people to come out and see you.
Let me pull it up.
You can always go to RyanNiemiller.com.
Yeah, you guys it's cripplethreat.com, actually.
Cripplethreat.com, that's right.
Yeah, if you want to vamp a little bit while I'm looking up the name. Celebrations is the place. It's called just doing a comedy night at Celebrations, the Celebrations Event Center. Yeah, doing a show with a buddy of mine, who he's a video game nerd who's also a comic, and I'm doing a corporate in Indianapolis on Tuesday, and I added this because I'm already going to be in the Midwest.
Yes.
Then just cripplethreat.com will have my dates. I'm starting to fill up the calendar now.
Does your friend have a name as well?
His name's Bryce Evans. Good guy.
Bryce Evans, yeah.
It
kind of sounds like the kid of Bob Evans, the restaurant, but he's like, I'm going to do comedy, play video games. I'm not working at your stupid restaurant.
Yeah, I will eat sausage, though.
He's like, don't talk to your diabetic father like that.
Is there continental breakfast served at these business luncheons?
I know I have Erie, Pennsylvania coming up in April. My calendar is going to be filling out. This is one of those things that's really tough. That nobody talks about if you're trying to be a performer and then become a parent. I've been kind of stay at home.
It sucks.
I've been stay at home. Oh, I've been stay at home dadding. The opposite, because my wife, works and I want her to work. She's worked for well before my son arrived, and I don't want her to quit her job.
Yep.
We did.
How old is the kid right now, Ryan?
He is 21 months old.
Whoa.
So we just got him into daycare so I could get back to work. Because I've loved getting to spend this time. Like, I'll choose my son over some weird ass.
I'm glad he didn't go with 1 year and 9 months.
Yeah, that would be 21 months. We can say. I think once he turns 2, you stop doing the months. I think at 2, then he's 2.
Thing?
That's what I'm gonna do. You sound stupid. I sound a little stupid saying 21 months, but I think colloquial, that's what you're supposed to do.
21 months sounds like you just got off of a drug and you're like, I'm 20 months. They gave me a coin now.
Yeah, I got my 20.
You know, my son, he's at 48 months old.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, is he 4?
Yeah, I'm at like 574 months. I don't know what I'm at. But because I've been, spending all this time, and I've loved that I've got to spend this time. Like, I know a lot of parents don't get all that time, but the trade-off has been I haven't been on the road, and so like I'm not having as many. We're getting all that fixed. I'm going to be on the road a lot more the rest of this year. So cripplethreat.com and then cripplethreat8 on all the social media. That's where you can follow me. It's me that's on it. I'm not big enough where I have to have a social media manager yet. So if you're talking to me or you're talking on there, you're talking to me. So
I appreciate that too, because like, not to say when I reach out to people such as yourself, you don't expect to get something back, and so I send out like crazy amounts of messages to people, and I'm like, boom, 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 would you like to come on our show? And not to say that we're unheard of, but we're on the low totem scale as far as
well, you're also on my personal Facebook page, so like you're seeing posts about me just making fun of the fucking Chiefs and shit like that.
Yeah,
you're just seeing me ranting about dumb shit on there.
Comedy
pages for comedy.
There are millions of podcasts out there, and we do pop up in the top echelon, in the top 100 every now and then. Not for long, but enough downloads to keep us going.
Hey, it all counts, man.
Yeah,
and this like, this is where I will get a little like new agey artsy fartsy with it. Is like, as long as you're enjoying doing this, because like even if you have the top podcast in the world, if you hate doing it, fucking stop. Like that, I think that's what it is. Like at a certain point, you got to just do things because you enjoy them, and if they happen to become profitable, that's how this works.
So, Ryan, I hope you're ready for this, because this is a Kevin question, and he asks this question of every one of our guests that always pops on the show.
Oh, damn it. All right.
Yeah. So, Ryan, you've been on the America's Got Talent, plenty of stages around. Would you count
around the world, by the way?
International.
You're very worldly talented.
I have been all the way to Canada.
Whoa!
I am actually getting to do. I haven't been advertising this because like no one can actually go to it. I do get to do my first military tour where I'm doing Singapore and Japan in a couple months. I'm pumped about that.
See, that's where I'm going.
Worldly. Very nice. Going worldly. So Ryan, would you count this being on the Podguyz podcast the peak of your career?
I enjoy your guys. I wouldn't even call this the peak of my evening, though.
Damn it!
Just so you know,
hearts are broken.
My son put his Elmo book inside his Elmo backpack. He connected that all that shit was Elmo. That was my fucking peak. Like I know you have kids, Tony. Do you have kids, Kevin?
Sparky, get your Elmo backpack out. We'll show you what the fucking. We'll show you something here.
But
Kevin has one on the way. By the way,
we got a baby on the way.
Cool.
We got a little baby girl on the way.
Very good. Congrats. Is this your first?
This is our first baby. I'm gonna be an older dad, such as yourself. That's why I always think I'm like, oh my god, I'll be dead.
Yep. And your kid will be happy because you won't be able to ruin their life anymore because you'll be gone. That's what I'm banking on.
I'll be the nightmare they get to talk about, that fucking fever dream of a childhood that they had to come out of.
But like he's at I'm not gonna claim I'm an expert. I'm a first time dad. He's not even 2 yet, so I don't know like the whole scope. But I can say it's fucking wild watching them go from being useless to like, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But when he connected the dots that like, oh, I have this Elmo book and this Elmo doll, and that's the only 2 things I'm going to put in my Elmo backpack. That shit blew my mind. I'm like, oh, this is
melting.
Like, there was an old joke on Scrubs. I'm not going to claim this was my thought, but it's like so funny. It's like having a baby is like having a dog that eventually learns how to talk. And that's kind of what this feels. It's like, he goes from being like you have in your head that like, oh man, he's never gonna figure anything out. He's never gonna learn to crawl. He's never gonna learn to talk. Like maybe this is it. And then like now he's just like connecting dots. And he has we have these like the little people dolls, like Fisher Price little people, if you're familiar with those. Yeah, I got him some Miami Dolphins ones.
That's the best team in the NFL right there. There
100%.
Not too many things that are perfect except for 72 Dolphins.
Yeah, 72 Dolphins.
Yeah.
But I got him those mostly for me.
Did you guys get to see the cheat code on Doc McStuffins where Disney didn't make anything new? All they did was they took Dr. Dolittle, right, and Toy Story and blended them, and there you go. And that's
Kevin. You know what's for another time? That story.
That story. Yeah, there you go.
But all I'm saying is, it's
Sparky,
cool
where can you find us if you were looking for us?
You can find us on every single major streaming platform, including iHeart, Spotify, Spreaker, Deezer, Castbox, Pocket Cast, GeoReo, Google, YouTube, Facebook Live video. You can find our nice merchandise, our nice gear at www.thepodguyzpodcast.com.
Yeah. Yeah, website's got to be back up soon. I guess.
It's technical difficulties.
Yeah.
You should have told me that. I wouldn't have advertised it.
Yeah,
that's okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
You have 12 seconds to fix it.
I know. Ryan, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate you. We love you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. Thank you all so much.
Guys, we're the Podguyz Podcast. I'm Tony Kaz.
Kevin Neary.
Of course, the ever-loving Picasso.
Les Parquet.
Yeah.
He has a voice. Not a man, not a myth, but a legend. Guys, we'll catch you next week, Monday, 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night. Catch you soon.